What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're building out a full-blown quiz application, and we're connecting this to Supabase as our backend. That's going to store all of our quiz questions, and you can even have multiple quizzes. So we have a start, and then you'll be presented with these questions, which are fetched from our backend using Supabase. We have all these questions. Submit, and then boom, get our results. Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. Depends on what kind of quiz you take. And then you can retake the quiz. Brings you back to the first question. And yeah, that's the app we're putting in this video. We're hooking this up to Supabase. If you're not familiar with Supabase, it's a Firebase alternative. Works fairly similarly to Firebase. And yeah, this will be the app that we're building. We also support dark mode. You see here we have a different view, a different little setting for dark mode, and you can hit submit. And you might have noticed that when the quiz isn't submittable, this is grayed out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. All right, so let's build our quiz app. I have Xcode already open. I'm gonna create a new project, hit app. We'll call this quiz app. We're using SwiftUI. You can uncheck core data and include tests. We don't need those. And just hit create. Boom, created. The first view we're gonna make is the question view, which is gonna be a view for each question. So let's say question view. In the question view, let's create a VStack. And in this VStack, we're gonna have question. Let's say, when was the iPhone first released? And then we'll have a list of answers. So we're going to use a for each. So I'm going to create a struct for our questions before we continue with the for each. And in this struct, let's create you can call this title text, basically the question. And this will be a string. And let's see, we want to create a property for the answer and let choices, you can array of strings. You can put choices or options. It's basically, this will have an array of strings, which will be our choices. So each for the question, there could be like 3 or 4 choices, and that will be either A, B, or C, right? And we'll say, so let's create an @state var question. More likely than not, this will be passed in from whichever view this view is being called from. For now, let's just create a question. And the question, let's see, we'll copy what we wrote here, the answer, and then I'm not gonna actually put data. I'm just to make it quick, I'm just gonna put A, B, C, D. Then under question, we say dot title, and for each question dot choices, and then we'll say text dot choice. Oh, this should be a choice. And oh yeah, we need to bring in ID. We can use dot self, rebuild the view, and there we go. So to fix this alignment, we'll just change on the VStack, make the alignment leading. It's good. We create some padding at the bottom. So we want each question to be on like a card. So I'm gonna create a height for this. So do dot frame height, do 550, and let's create a background color. I'm gonna call background, and we'll say color dot red. Let's see. All right, so that gives us our background, and we're gonna want to create a corner radius. Let's do like 20. All right, instead of red, we're gonna change this to a UI color. UI color system gray 6. I like this color. And we need to add some padding so that it's not hugging the edges. Do like 50, 40. We'll keep it at 20. And we can add some spacing, 20, and then we can get rid of this padding. Okay, and now see if we create a shadow. How does this look? We create a little shadow. I'm gonna do color. So you can create a color. I don't think you need to write the color. You don't have to write the color attribute. You just create the color, and let's do UI color dot label, And we're going to use like an opacity of 0.2. Just a very light. Oh, looks like we need to insert color. All right. Let's see if I do 15. How does this look in dark mode? All right. I think the text would look nicer if we do a foreground color of gray. Also, our question view is kind of stamped out. Well, we still have to set up, like, I want to create another view for each of these options. So in our content view, we're going to get rid of all this. We're going to create a tab view. We're creating a tab view, and we're going to use a tab view to host our quiz. I feel like it gives it a very nice look. So within our tab view, we're going to do a for each. You can bring in data and ID. So we'll have to create some data. And what I'll do is I'll create a class up here called Quiz Manager. We'll make this an observable object. Let's create mock questions. This will be an array of questions. I'm going to go back here, copy this question, paste it in there. Now something we could do in our question view is, oh, I forgot to set this equal. Okay, and then we'll say create a state object up top, state object var manager equal quiz manager. And for data, we're going to do manager dot mock questions ID dot self. I'm going to change this because I think we might get an error since if the title was the same. All right, so we have the for each, and for each we want to set a question view, pass in a question, and question. Hit Command B, see if we have any issues. So we have to conform to hashable. We're gonna go here, and if we conform to identifiable and we just set let ID equal UUID, let's see, ID, hit Command B. There we go, that gets rid of that issue. So we're almost there. We just have to create a dot tab view style here at the bottom. We need to call that. And we need to set it equal to page. And now we can swipe through. And it looks like we need to set our height, our width for each question. So here under frame, let's set a width of 300. Actually, something we could probably do is we could do a frame min width. Min width of 300. Ideal, probably 350. And now what happens when we swipe? There we go. And to be honest, I don't want, it's better UI if it all looks the same. So width, do 350, 350, probably do 320. I went with 330, and that sets it for all of them. And I don't think we're seeing it because we're in light mode, but if we go into dark mode, we have these dots here. And to get rid of that, you can say index display mode. Just do a parentheses after page. You click on this, and then you could say never. That'll get rid of those dots. And that's kind of cool. Like in case you want them there, then you just would leave them, and it'll let like the user know. Oh, and you can jump back and forth between question. So that's the personal preference. For our project, we're gonna go with never, just to hide it. All right, to fix this issue. To fix this issue where you see here when the question is like smaller, it's here in the center. We'll go to our question view and we'll add an alignment to the frame of dot leading. And we'll go back to our content view and boom, you see here, now it's all pushed to the left. We're gonna want to create some padding though. Maybe we can make this bigger. All right, so I made this 340 instead. And I realized we should get rid of this. Well, I'm gonna cut this because we're gonna need it, but we should require it to be initialized. We are already doing that in our content view, so we won't have to worry about it, but that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so UI is looking good. All right, so now we want to track when a user taps on one of these buttons, and currently we have them implemented as text, so we're gonna have to make some changes. We're gonna say button action label, and we will most likely refactor this into its own view. So on button print, I'm going to change this to options. Copy, paste. There we go. Print option. So for the label, I want to create a circle. The label, we're going to create a circle, add a little shadow to it. 3. We're going to give it a frame, 24 by 24. We can get rid of the alignment. And let's call stroke on it. Let's see. Oh, we're getting an error because of that. I think in our content view we have hit fix. Now we go back to our question view. Boom. All right, we have these and we have the buttons now. Oh, you see we're printing the option we selected. And to actually see the option, like what the text, we're gonna embed the button in an H stack. And after the button, we're gonna display the option. There we go. And I'm gonna add a foreground color here. We're gonna do color, use UI color again, secondary label. I like that. All right, so now we want to deal with the highlighting of one of these answers. And to do so, I'm going to go to our struct and I'm going to create a var called selection. And this will be a string. Let's make this an optional. And this selection signifies the option that's selected for this question. In our course, we're only going to be covering single answer questions. So that's why we're here only storing one selection, because you can only have one item selected. And if that's the case, so if in here we can create a Boolean. So if question dot selection equals option, we're gonna want to present something else. We'll present something else. So if the selection equals the option, that means the button is selected. Else, it means it's not selected. So this can stay. And for our circle here, we can get rid of the stroke. And under button, let's say, instead of printing, well, we can still print it, but we'll also say question dot selection equals option. Ah, now it's going back and forth. And all right, now the only thing missing is we can change the color of when the button is selected. And we can go to our assets and we're gonna create a color. So we're gonna go to color set. And we'll call this app color. And we'll be using this multiple times. So that's why I'm creating it here. I clicked on this panel here. This popped up. And I like to go to the color panel. And if you have the hex, you can enter that in here. But I'm going to play around with this. I'm doing like a little blue. The hex color is this if you want to use it. And I'm going to go for like an orange. And I went for like a dark orange. This is the hex. And if we go back to our circle, if we go to foreground and we call color, and now if we say app color, let's see what shows. Hey, we get the blue, and in dark mode, we get the orange. That's pretty cool. All right. And one thing I want to incorporate is, I like this foreground color that we have here. So I'm going to remove it from our H stack and put it in our V stack actually. And that puts it on the question as well. Let's go back to our content view and let's see how our quiz is looking. So, yep, it looks like it's storing all of our selections. We change, looks good. One thing I want to incorporate in our quiz is a submit button. And that button would be here at the end. And how do we want to display that? One neat way is we can embed this in a VStack. So here under the question view, we can do something pretty neat. We can say if let last question equals manager dot mock questions. Say last. We say just dot last, and then we can say last question equals. We can say ID equals question.id text last one. Haha, it shows up. And this is the last one. If we get rid of a question, then it should show up for the third one. All right, looks like it's working fairly well. And I used ID because I think if you use just question, it's going to tell you to conform to equatable. When you can just use ID, since the ID is being initialized automatically and it's a constant and it won't change. All right, so instead of saying the last one like this, well, let's put this on 2 lines. This look nicer. Instead of saying last one, we can create a button, an action and a label. And the action, we can just say print submit. And the label will be text dot, we'll say submit. And let's create some padding. And we'll do a foreground color of dot white. And now let's create a background for this. For this button. The background, we could use a rounded rectangle. Corner radius 20. Style of continuous. For our rounded rectangle, we can fill it with a color. And we can call that color our app color. Let's actually go and let's give this a frame.
Okay.
So this looks good. I'm gonna add a frame to a rounded rectangle or a width just to make it a little bit bigger. And if you wanted to match the card, I believe we did 340. Yep. So I want to pin the submit button to the bottom. One way to do that is we can create a spacer here and a spacer here. Then we go up to our question and boom, it's at the bottom. Let's see dark mode, how this looks. All right, submit. Cool. Now in our quiz manager, I want to actually create a function that's going to let us know if we can submit the quiz or not. So we're going to say if a func can submit quiz, this will return a Boolean. And this, so we want to loop through each of the questions. Right now we're using the mock questions, but when we have actual questions, we're going to loop through them. And all right, so in this function, we're going to want to check if each question has a selection. All right, in this can submit function, instead of using an if statement, we can actually just use return because we're a function on our array of questions. So mock, when we actually implement real questions, filter, and this filter is going to go through each item and we want to do something. So we want to filter out where each item, the selection. So this will be empty if every question has a selection, because selection won't be, it'll actually have a value, so it will be empty. It is an empty property, and that's a Boolean itself, so we just return that. And this is a really neat way of checking if each question in our quiz has a selection. And there's one thing this works. Quiz, if you hit submit, you should see false. See, we have to print. Now if we go here, hit submit, you see false. And some of you guys may have noticed this, but there's a bug actually in our project. Right now I selected everything, but you see it goes away, the selection. And that has to do with our quiz or our question view, because we're updating the question in this view. This question is being passed in from its parent view. So if we want those changes that we make here to be reflected in the content view, we actually have to make it a binding. That way, changes we make here are passed to the parent view, the content right here, where we just have to fill this out to dot. So to get rid of this top issue, we actually have to change this from ID to self. And now we run into an interesting situation because our question is a struct, right? And that means that it's a value type and not a reference type. So when we make changes to our struct, in this case the question, we need to specify instance we're referring to, because this question here will be of a different value type than this. So changes made to this one wouldn't be reflected in this array. The way we can handle that is instead of mock questions, and instead of question, that becomes an index. And we get the reference of the question, the manager dot mock questions, and then you just pass in the index. And that'll be the specific index we're working, is binding. And now changes made to the question will be reflected in our array here. We need to just grab this again, this part. And the last thing we need to make sure we make this an at publish. That way changes to this are reflected in our view. There we go. You see, otherwise, if you make a selection, it's not if you make a selection, the change is not shown here because the changes to this array need to be to our quiz manager. That way, this publish wrapper lets us publish any change we make to this array. And that's how our view is notified of any change. Highlight all of these, select the answer. It doesn't go away anymore. And if I hit submit, you should see true. Where earlier that wasn't the case. Something nice where there's a disabled property on the button. We want this to be disabled if we can't submit, but not here, because otherwise it'll be disabled. We can't submit. But now if we go back, can't click on it. Now if you want it to be grayed out, you can add a button style dot plain, and it shows up like this. Now when it's submitted, it actually shows up highlighted. And now let's do, there we go. Get them all right. Boom, 100%. Alright, it's looking good. We can grade our quiz. Looking light mode. Grade it 50. Alright, so our app has come along pretty well. Now I'm going to go ahead and integrate it with Supabase to connect this to a backend. So when it launches, it'll fetch the questions from a backend server using Supabase. If you guys aren't familiar with Supabase, it's similar to Firebase. It calls itself the Firebase alternative, and it gives us, it's fairly new. It doesn't have that many features, but in terms of database, it provides a really solid database. And I've actually have a series on Supabase if you want to learn more about it that we're going through. But right now we're going to be just integrating it in our project to use as a database for the questions. So I put up Google here, and we're going to go to supabase.com. You can select dashboard, and we're going to create a new project. If you don't have an account, you'll have to set it up. I just signed in with Google basically. And I'm going to call this project Quiz App. Once you have this information, you hit create, and now it generated generates your project. And I'm actually going to look up Supabase Swift so we can bring in the Swift package we'll need. We're going to copy this. You can select code, copy the HTTPS, go to add packages in your Xcode, paste that in here, bring in Supabase, hit add package. And now we have Supabase in here. I'm going to create a file called our quiz manager. I'm just going to move all this stuff in there. And instead of making a database manager, I'm only going to create a quiz manager in this course just to save us some time. But it might be helpful if you're making a very complex project to separate the quiz manager and the database manager to keep your code clean and decouple it. But for our project, it's not going to matter. So we're going to import Supabase. And when we use Supabase, we have to create a client. I'm going to do it here below this publish variable. Let client equals Supabase client. We go back to our browser, and you go back to your project in Supabase, and you're going to go down here to project settings. Can you guys see this? All right, yeah, I'm not covering it. You're down here to settings, and you go to, I believe it's API. Yep, we're going to copy this key, and that key goes here. And we copy the URL, and that URL goes here. And we actually have to create a URL from string. Put that in there, and then make sure you do force unwrap it. Now hit Command B. Our build succeeds. So that's good. And what do we do next? So now we want to fetch our data, but we haven't created it. So I'm going to go to the database. Go here, create a new table. I'm going to call this table quiz. And the way this database is going to work is we're going to have, so this is going to be a table, and each row is going to be a question. And we're going to fetch all the questions in this table. So let's go back to our project. And what do we need for a question? We need a title, and the title is a text. We also need an answer, which is a text. And then we're going to have options. And we're going to say it's a text as well. And then we're going to go here to the settings icon, and this is going to be important. We're going to define as an array, and that'll allow us to create an array for this options, where we'll have each option / possible answer in there. And we don't have to worry about selection because we'll handle that on our side. And let's hit save. Enable row level security. We're not going to enable it because we want everybody to be able to read this. This is how you could set up security policies. But you would have to set up the user authentication module of Supabase, and we didn't do that for this project. If that's something you're interested in, check out the series I made on Supabase. On the channel, we cover the user authentication and using row level security. All right, and then with these, we should be set. Gonna hit save. All right, so our database is created. Now we have to create each question / row. So I'm gonna go to our table editor, select on quiz. And now I'm basically just going to go through and insert each question. I have some questions I created here on the side, and I'm just going to go through and punch these out. You guys can do the same on your end. And one thing to know, I'm not going to enter the ID or the created at because Supabase will handle that on its own. All right, just one thing to know, for this array section, you have to type in your array like this. So you do the array brackets, and then you put each text in a quotation mark. Then we hit save, and you're just going to repeat this. I'll do like 5 more. All right, so I created 5 questions. And you want to be careful and make sure that you don't have any typos. Because if your answer doesn't match the one here, then they're going to have some issues. So just something to keep in mind. Now let's go back to our quiz manager. And let's create a publish var questions. Make this equal to questions. We'll make this an empty array of questions. And on initialization, we're going to create a task. Try await client dot database dot from. So we're going to use from, and you need to specify the name of your table. In our case, the table name is quiz. From quiz dot, we can just say select. You just say select with the empty and then just say execute. So, and we'll get a response from that. And let's actually wrap this in a do catch so we know if there's an error. Do catch error fetching questions. And now we can print the response, underline response dot data. And actually what we have to do is we have to, I'm gonna say let data equal that. I'm gonna print the string data UTF-8. Now let's run this. And this should make this network call because we're calling this at initialization. And if it fails, oh look, so our network call was a success. This is what we get in the data. All right, so now I'm gonna make some changes. We're using mock questions in here. I'm gonna change this stuff to questions. Change this to questions. I'm gonna go to question. I'm actually gonna highlight this, or I'm gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna go to question, and I'm gonna make this ID an int. And I'm going to create a created app, which will be a type string. And I'm doing it this way so we can actually decode. We can use this question to decode. So let's make this decodable. I think that's all we had, right? We had a title, the answer, and the options. And the selection will be fine. Now we get an issue here. Let's fix that. So we're missing an ID and a created app. Hit Command B. On the set of questions, we need questions. We need to change all this to questions. Hit Command B again. So we need to create a decoder. And we need to use decoder and actually make a change. Because if you guys look here, this is in snake case. So we're going to say decoder, key decoding strategy, convert from snake case. Now we can say decoder.decode. And we'll say question.self from data. And this is an array of questions. So we're going to highlight this and then put a bracket. Let questions equal that. Let's print questions. And we can actually put this to self. So self questions. And this will be updating our UI. So we might have to put this on the main actor. Main actor.run. Instead of putting the decoding, we'll just say questions and self.questions equal to question. There we go. Now let's run that. And let's see what we get. Oh. And if let's get this all wrong. So let's see. Let's say 2010. Oh, I think we forgot to change one thing. I can't submit. Oh, I didn't answer the first question. And let's hit submit. And we failed. Let's try to get them all right. So when was the Swift language introduced? 2014, 2008, I believe. Xcode Swift. Let's be bad if there we go, 100%. Hey, our quiz app is coming along. All right, guys. So our app is pretty much set. So in our content view, I'm going to create a full screen cover to start the app or the quiz. And also a full screen cover to display the results once we submit the quiz. So we're going to go full screen cover is presented. And we're going to have to create two booleans. One will be, we'll make them both state variables. Show, let me see. We'll say show start. And we'll say this is false. And another one called show results. Let's equal to false. All right. And then we'll go down here. We'll bind this one to show start. Let's create another full screen cover and bind that cover to show results. And now we need to create two views, a start view and a results view. So I'm going to create both of those. I'll do the results one first, results view, and create another view, new file, start view. And in our start, we can create a VStack. We will call this quiz app. And what else will say? Welcome. Or Then we could say, are you ready to start the quiz? And then one more text, or actually, yeah, this will be a text as well, or a button. So it'll have let's say, so the action on the button, since this is gonna be a full screen cover, we can dismiss it when they tap on start, and we can dismiss a full screen cover using an environment object or using the environment wrapper. Sorry, and we use dot and then dismiss slash backward slash dot dismiss var. Then you call dismiss. Then we just say, and here we can say dismiss, close the parentheses. And now when this button is tapped, it'll dismiss this view. And we need to create some text for the button. We'll say start. Looks like we have error. What error do we have? Oh, show start. This is start view. And all right, so that gets rid of those errors. Let's go back to start view and check it out. Let's create a frame, do max width and a max height of dot infinity, alignment dot top. And we can say padding dot top. Create some spacing in here. So let's do a spacing of 25. See how that looks. And let's change the font. This one, large title. And actually, I'm gonna do system size. Do we have like 64? There we go. I'm gonna just use the size for all of these. This can be like 48. All right. Nope, this is too big. 32, 24. There we go. And create some padding. I'm going back to our content view, and I'm going to copy the formatting we use for this button. Save us a little bit of time. Boom. Well, we can create a spacer. That'll pin this all the way to the bottom. And what if we put a spacer here? I kind of like it right there. It puts it like in the middle. Let's do like 40. All right. You guys can play around with how you want this spacing to go. I personally like a lot more space. I'm going to remove these spacers though. And let's just do a top padding of like 100. I'll keep it like this. And let's see if instead of, see if we could do center. So we'll change our alignment to center. And then to shift this a little bit higher, I'm going to do a bottom padding of 50. Actually, let's do 100. That just shifts our V-stack a little bit higher. And this looks good. Let's see in our content view. So show start. This is going to be true. And then it dismisses when we hit start. All right, so our start view is pretty set. I'm going to copy this V-stack and go over to our results view. Just paste it in here and we'll make some changes. So we'll keep it quiz app. And let's bring in the environment object. The environment wrapper, sorry. I keep calling it environment object. Let's say take again. For our button, we'll change this to retake quiz. And this top part or this middle one, this middle text, we can change this to, let's say your quiz is completed. And then we want to display our results. And how do we want to do this? So you completed the quiz. Let's put the results in between here. We can make this text bigger. 48. Let's do 36. And then we'll create some more text. And in this text, we're going to store the result. But I want to go back to our quiz manager. And I want to look at how we're handling the results. So grade quiz. I'm going to create something. I'm going to create a struct for us called quiz result. And in this quiz result, we'll have a grade, which will be a string. And we can have let's see, we'll have an int called correct and an int called total. And instead of an int, let's make these CG floats. I'll say that because maybe we'll be dividing them in the future, and dividing CG floats will be a lot easier than dividing ints in case you have like let's say you have a 78.3% or something like that. Then using a CG float or a double will handle that. And let's return a quiz result. And I'm going to cut this out, do quiz result, go to grade, paste that in, go to correct, and then total is just questions.count. And this will have to be converted into CG flow. We can just copy this here. All right, and we're going to go back to our content view. And I'm going to go to our results view, and the initialization of this results view, I'm going to require result, which will be of type quiz result. Now in our results view, we have access to our result, and we can use some string interpolation to do result dot correct divided by, or you could say out of result dot total, and then we just create another text with result dot grade. Now hit Command B, and we have some issues. I think it's right here. It's requiring a result. Say dot result, do 8, 10, and the string would be 80%. Command B, or refresh the preview. Oh, well actually, let's go back to our result. And let's just change them to ints. Then we don't need this CG flow, so we can cut this out and paste it in here. And then in our results view, we don't have any decimals anymore. Boom, 8 out of 10. We're gonna add some font size here. This can be like 24 maybe. Yep. Let's put this in its own VStack. Let's do 32. And add a little bit of spacing. Let's do 10. All right. Now let's go to our content view. And one thing we could do, we can publish quiz result and set this equal to result. Quiz result 0%. Or we'll say 100. You know, glass half full, half empty. And then instead of returning here, we'll say self.result or quiz result equals this. We'll get rid of the return. Hit Command B. Then in our content view, we'll say manager.grade quiz. And we don't have to worry about the form not being fully selected because we have this disabled button, meaning they can't submit until every question is answered. We're gonna, now we display the results view. We can grab the result from the manager. And let's try this. So that's gonna be wrong. That's gonna be wrong. Here, this should be right. This should be right. Let's get this wrong. We hit submit. Oh, we graded the quiz, but we didn't show we forgot to say show results. Set that equal to true. So this will be right. This will be wrong. Right. Be wrong. Let's get this wrong. 40%. Oh. And now we go back. Okay, and now let's say, so now we need to handle the resetting of the quiz. So I'm going to go to the manager, the quiz manager. Let's create a function, reset quiz. Let's leave it public for now. And in this reset quiz, we're going to set questions. We'll say self questions.map. I'm going to map everything the same. Title and answer is answer, and options. I'm going to create a selection. Set the selection equal to nil. This will reset everything. And all right, we should be, let's see. Let's call that, go to our content view, and let's call it here reset quiz. Actually, I hit Command R. We can just see everything in the simulator, in the preview. So let's hit start, Swift. Let's try to get these all right. Which year? The App Store 2008. What is this? 2014. Swift was introduced. iPhone. Let's hit retake. All right, everything's reset. And the last thing we'll need to take into account is when they show the results, we're gonna want to reset this tab view to be set to the first question, and we can do that using a selection. It's a cool feature in the tab bar, and we need to create a state var called selection. And we'll set the first one equal to 0. And we're going to use this selection along with this index here in our for each loop. We're going to create a tag for each of these VStacks. And we'll say tag equals index. Hit Command B. And then when we reset the quiz, we're going to want to set the selection equal to 0. Hit Command B. And let's try to run this. So start. I'm gonna just blindly click on submit. All right, 2 out of 5, 40%. Let's retake it. This time let's try to get them all right. So Xcode 2008 iPhone, submit, 5 out of 5. All right, so it's working, and that means our app is set. Let's run this on the simulator or on the iPhone. All right, y'all, so our app is set. Java, well, let's say Swift, Xcode 2008, 2014 iPhone. Boom. This app is fully set up, and you can play around with the database, create multiple quizzes. You can use this to study if you're trying to become an iOS developer. You can use this for a lot of things. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this course. If you did, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Definitely check out more videos on the channel. We have a lot of other courses with SwiftUI or UI Kit. And we have a podcast. Check out the iOS Dev Podcast. And definitely hit me up on Twitter. Give me a follow. Give me a little shout out. I'll respond to y'all. Let me know what you guys think. And I hope you guys enjoy and you have a good day. Keep coding. Let me know if there's any cool features that you add to this or you want to see added. And I'll get back to y'all. See y'all. Peace.
I'm riding between it all in this perfect play. I'm a piece of the puzzle, I'm a fit where you need.